Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker podcast, brought to you by Gundog Outdoors. I'm Jeff Stanfield.
I'm Andy Shaver. Gundog Outdoors got a lot of good promo codes. Trump 2020 will save 20% on the field trauma kit, which I think everybody needs.
I've got one in my truck.
I've got one in my blind bag. I hope I don't ever need it, but
me too.
It is there just in case.
I figure my chances of needing mine are going to be more in my vehicle because I've had to use a couple of them a couple times, run upon an accident or something. So I carry one in my truck. Might save a life.
You never know. You never know. All right, it is 10 minutes of Just the Tip, and today we are talking about what I think is the most important aspect. I think this is where your hunt is won and lost, and it is scouting.
I agree.
Now, you're a scout wizard.
I don't know about the wizard part, but I scout a lot.
That's your job. Everybody's got a role out here. Scouting is yours.
I'm a scouter. Yes, it's really important. The biggest things, we scout morning and afternoon, and not everyone can do that. If you're doing the hunting, you can't do both. But I scout in the mornings. I'm there at first light when the birds first come off the water. I watch our hunts a little bit. I scout. I come back and watch our hunts a lot of times. I'll drive our guys into the field. I'll pick them up, park the vehicles, and I'll give them a ride back to the spread. And then I'm there from day on. I like to see what's going on anyways. But you get a feel of things different in the morning because there's a lot of times during the year, and right now we're facing this right here. Now, we're running birds right now because we don't have a goose season yet. We don't open until the 14th, but it's warming up again. We're going to be in the 70 degrees today. Is the highs in the 70s today, isn't it? I think mid-70s.
The next couple weeks going to be warm.
We've got a full moon, and it's in the 70s right now. So I'm sure some people, y'all are dealing with this that are hunting from Kansas north right now that are dealing with this stuff. When you scout in the morning, when it's a full moon and warm like this, birds do things different in the morning than they do the afternoon.
Right.
So the things I see in the morning is more indicative of what's going to be happening the next morning than it always is going to be in the afternoon. And you got to use some common sense too. If you're hunting the X, and the X, field Z is the best field every day, let's say, or typically, and the birds are feeding in the morning there. Well, you go hunt there and you shoot them, and they go to another field. When the evening they go back to the field you're in. They want to go back to that field. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't mean don't hunt it and go hunt another field, because if you do that, they might load up in the hot field. So use some common sense on some things. But a lot of times in the mornings when we hunt a field, they'll start feeding somewhere else, and you can tell that's going to be the hot field the next day. So if you're day leasing, jump on that field and try to lease it real quick before someone else gets it.
That's a little...
Well, but that's part of the game you're playing, and especially a lot of places where people are fighting over fields. 5, 6 guys are trying to get on one field. If one of your guys in your group will scout while everybody else is hunting, you might get a leg up on somebody.
How many days do you think that birds need to be in the field before you're comfortable enough to hunt them?
Some days 1 day, some days 2 or 3 days. Depends on the situation and where you're at. If you're hunting big birds, and I don't know a lot about hunting just big birds with 100 or 200 birds in them, I would feel more comfortable if the birds were in the field at least 2 days before I hunted them.
But now here, because birds hop around so much because of pressure and guys hunting.
If birds are in the field heavy one night, we'll hunt it the next day, and I'm usually comfortable with that.
Right. So if we hunt and birds go to another field.
And then they're in there that evening again, the next evening, I'd be comfortable to hunt it.
That's why scouting in the morning is so important, because if you are putting pressure on the birds and then they go to another field, if you hadn't scouted that morning and you just saw them that afternoon or that evening, you might not feel as comfortable going in the next day. Like, you can kind of talk yourself into more shit without scouting in the morning.
And there's another thing too, is that we deal with, and every place is different. When you hunt a field, or you're hunting an area and they come off a place, we've got some places here where I call them loafing fields or staging fields. They'll go land in a field and they'll sit there, then they'll fly to that to go. And I don't understand why they do that. Sometimes it's bare dirt. Sometimes they go to wheat and they sit on the wheat. Then they'll go from the wheat to peanuts. There's no rhyme or reason, but that's what they do. Well, we hunt those fields sometimes.
Right.
And when you scout in the morning, you see that in the afternoon, they don't do that as much.
Right.
They usually go straight to the field. So if you're not scouting in the afternoon, you're maybe missing an opportunity. I mean, scouting in the morning, you might be missing an opportunity on some hunting that's there. Because we'll hunt some places that are loafing fields that won't have a bird on them in the evening when we scout. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell the guys, like, we're going to hunt here. And they sometimes are like, what the? There's not a freaking bird there. Well, but they use them every morning. And we scratch out a good hunt on them a lot of times. Those hunts are usually pretty consistent for hitting in double digits, 20 to 30 birds. You're not always going to kill the 40 bird hunts there, but you usually kill 20 birds off of them. They're good hunts, and they're solid hunts, and we'll hunt them sometimes. And sometimes we'll shoot a full limit pretty quick out of them.
Yeah. Now, for a guide, the thing that I'm looking for whenever I'm scouting is a couple things. How are they flying to the field? Where are they at in the field? I'm looking at food to know, okay, so, if I'm hunting a field that's got a ton of food on it, I'm doing things a little bit differently with my decoy spread. I can keep them in a tighter congregation. Now, as food starts to get more and more scarce as the year goes on, I make my decoy spread much wider, and it kind of resembles what the birds are seeing it kind of resembles what the birds are doing. So, when food gets scarce, my decoy spreads out. But when food's everywhere, I like to keep things kind of tight. And, we use dive bombs. We use silhouettes here. So I've talked about it before, but I like to do what I call a feeding frenzy, and we'll get into that whenever we talk about decoys. But basically, it's a big clump of decoys all in a central location. So to what that tells the birds in the air is right here is where the food is. And when I'm looking at a field scouting as a guide, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to hunt the next day, what obstacles might be, in the way, because there's nothing worse than, setting up and then being like, fuck, there's a wellhead or there's something sticking up that's right in my kill hole or something. So I'm looking to see where the birds are at in the field, where I'm planning on hiding. How are the birds acting in the field? Are they all feeding? Is it a staging field like Jeff said? And some of that will go into kind of how I approach it the next morning. So Jeff, he kind of tells us where the birds are, but as a hunter, you got to kind of look at what's going on in the field to draw your game plan for the next day.
My job is put y'all to a field. It's your job to be in the field and figure out what you want to do.
Right.
But and also don't sell yourself short on hunting fields that don't have anything in them. Especially I have guys all the time that'll say something about duck hunting, and they're like, well, the ducks aren't using my field. They're using a field 3 miles away. If you've got a ton of flight mallards flying over you and you can be between them and where they're going, if you throw out some spinners, get some lucky ducks going and spread in a good hide, you can kill some birds.
Right.
I think a lot of guys think that they got to hunt in the field that the birds are in. You don't have to do
right
that.
Where the birds are.
If
in the
you
field.
can get off of a roost a quarter to half mile away where you're not going to jack with the roost every time you shoot, you could be surprised how many birds and how many successful hunts you can have.
Right.
That and most outfitters have put themselves in that situation where sometimes that's the best they can do, but they know that they've got that game plan. You have to have some fields that no matter what the situation is, you can go and at least kill some birds.
Right.
And your scouting in the morning will make a big difference. Scouting in the evening, a lot of miles you're going to put on. Some places, some guys are scouting 60 to 100 miles. Usually do a lot of glassing. I try to find a place that's got a high. I've got a couple of areas out here where I can sit up high and I can watch birds and I can watch things 4 or 5 miles in each direction. And I use them a lot. And our area is a little different than a lot of places are. In Oklahoma, where we hunt at, I scout in the mornings and I'll have places that are birds and we'll hunt 20, 25 miles apart sometimes up there. But to me, scouting in the morning, we have a head start in the afternoons a lot of times on what we're going to be looking for.
Right. It just gives you a competitive advantage because you've got a 5 or 6 hour jump on your other guys. If you can at least like have a call into the farmer in the morning and like, hey, if the birds are back on there this evening, we're going to be there in the morning. Or if you just want to go ahead and lock it up based off of what you saw that morning, then go ahead and do that because you don't want to burn a whole lot of farmers by telling them, oh, we'll be there in the morning and then not show up.
Yeah,
so
I've paid rent many times on places we didn't hunt because I told a guy we would be there. And
well, it just makes it just makes it right. It leaves a good taste in the farmer's mouth. But scouting is the most important thing. So if you can get a guy in your group that is a designated scouter, or if you're off in a location that you're not familiar with, if you can have alternate. Yeah. One guy goes scouting one morning, one guy the next, and
take
scouting
turns.
in the morning is very important, just because you get a little bit of a head start on the competition. And I've seen it where birds don't do the same thing that they do morning to afternoon.
Yeah, and every group's got that one guy though that thinks he's so important that he don't need to scout.
Right.
That guy is not a team player. If you're hunting with buddies and y'all are taking turn doing this, make sure someone scouts in the morning a lot, or they don't have to scout the first hour and a half. Make them
Right.
get up after an hour and a half hunting and then go scout. I prefer to be there from first light. I, as an outfitter, do not like not knowing what happened in the morning. I mean, it just throws me completely off.
Right. Because you feel like you're behind the 8 ball
All
that
the time.
afternoon,
Yeah,
that evening.
If
Like,
I don't know what happened in the morning, and Mom will be every once in a while, she'll be like, let's go Christmas shopping, and you just take off in the morning, you'll be back. It blows my whole day because I feel like I've lost a whole day of what was going on. Anyways, that's 10 minutes of the tip.
That's 10 minutes of the tip. And one little bonus tip: when you're scouting and you see how the birds are coming, flying over your field, if worse comes to worse, and if your first plan to hide doesn't work, get under the birds, because that'll at least give you the best opportunity. Don't go to the other side of the field, where birds are not flying over you. Worst comes to worst, always get under the birds as they're coming into your field. That went by really, really quickly. So we hope that everybody enjoyed this podcast, and hope everybody has a good one. Bye.